While many Americans are angry over the new screening procedures, a Muslim group is claiming women in traditional Muslim clothing shouldn't submit to the searches. Joining us now is Ahmed Rehab from the Council on American-Islamic Relations. Ahmed, you baffle me. Every time you're on here, I'm trying to figure out what's going on here. So let me get this straight. You're suggesting that Muslim women wearing the jihad do not have to be searched or shouldn't be subjected to the same search that I was subjected to on Monday?
Eric, you have an uncanny ability to misunderstand our perspective,
Thank
so
you.
let me set you straight on that.
Please do.
What we're saying, we're not talking about the full body pat downs or the x-ray machines. We're talking about the existing measures where if a person goes through a metal detector and does not set it off, but then goes through secondary screening, what we are telling our constituents is essentially the TSA policy, which is they're entitled to a pat down of the sort of baggy clothing in question that brought them into the secondary screening. That's existing TSA policy. Whether it's a baggy jeans or a hijab, a headscarf around a woman's head and neck, that's the existing TSA policy.
Ahmed, I was reading something, one of your recommendations directly from CAIR that says refuse it because it violates a religious, one of your religious beliefs.
No. What we're saying is you are entitled to have a pat down of the baggy clothing in question. That is the TSA rules. We don't want people to be confused.
But Ahmed,
do
you
that
not
an
recommend
alternative to the metal detector
there was
is a full body pat down? It isn't.
Ahmed, there was a line in that release you put out that said offer a self pat down.
Again, that is TSA policy, Eric. Go look into it. What they do is they allow you to pat down your baggy clothing, then they run your hands through a swab, and that's how they know that there's no problem with your baggy clothing.
So
that's
everyone should be allowed
policy.
to pat themselves down and go find a swab, go find that line over there. Boy,
if you go through a metal detector and then secondary screening.
Halt.
Listen, you're conflating two different things. We're not talking about airports that have the x-ray machine to which the only alternative is a full body pat down. We're talking about airports that don't, through which you go through a regular metal detector and then you're brought into a secondary screening. That's when you're entitled to be able to pat down your baggy clothing.
Kim, take a look at this video down here. These are some traditional Muslim clothing in here. A lot of places to hide stuff. What am I missing? This seems, I'm scared. I'm scared that if this passes, and a Muslim woman who's wearing this can get on an airplane self-padded, and
I just think that this is, I think it's confusing. There's a lack of uniformity. It doesn't make sense. I think that what it's going to do is dramatically slow down the screening process, and you're going to have lawsuits. Believe me, they're going to come from people who are saying, why do they get to be treated differently? How can you not say that it's
and
not
if I
based
wear
on
my
religious
skinny
beliefs?
jeans, then I'm going to get searched more. I mean, that just doesn't make any sense. It's clothes discrimination. Let's go back to shopping now.
And it almost becomes reverse religious discrimination.
Yeah.
Well, okay, they're out because they can't, remove? I'm trying to understand the reason behind the policy.
Yeah,
Can you please tell us?
Ahmed, can I
how is
wear
it special
that?
treatment?
Can I put one of the?
How is it special treatment?
Well, I want to know. Can I just say I'm Muslim? I want to wear a headgear or even the whole burqa? Can I walk in and say, look, don't let me do this myself?
Listen, if you wear baggy jeans, Eric, just as you are, Eric Bowling, and you go through a metal detector, it's not set off, and you're brought into secondary screening because of your baggy clothing, you are entitled just as much as the woman in a hijab to be able to pat down your baggy jeans and then run your hands through a swab. That's the current TSA policy. It applies to any baggy clothing. That's what we're trying to explain to our constituents. We're not introducing a new special measure.
You're saying you're trying to make them aware of
commenting.
the existing policy.
Exactly. It's an awareness
and
issue.
make sure that it is enforced and thereby make people aware of it. That's
What was the reason for the
It does sound like a religious thing, though, and I don't understand how that comes
It's
into
not a
play when you're
religious
talking
thing.
about
But Ahmed,
screening
in
at
your
airports.
press release, and I'm sorry I had it, I don't know where I put it. I literally walked in here with this thing. It said refuse it on religious belief grounds. It's in your words, not mine.
Certain religious rules.
Eric, listen, I will concede that line can be subject to misinterpretation. We are working with TSA to ensure that it is not misinterpreted. We're not trying to say we're asking for any special treatment. We're just trying to explain to our constituents
because that's what's coming
the rules
across
of the
to
TSA.
everyone.
Ahmed, here's what it says. Here's what it says. The Council on American-Islamic Relations, CAIR, has issued a travel notice to Muslim airline passengers warning them that new regulations from the TSA violate certain religious rules. That's not what you're saying, my friend. This is new regulations. What are you talking about?
Right. No, what we're saying is because of the new regulations, Muslim women may think that as a result of the being selected for secondary screening, that means an automatic full-body pat-down. It doesn't. That's what we meant. We didn't want them to be confused with the new regulations in terms of secondary screenings. The new regulations only apply to an alternative to the X-ray machines, not to an alternative to the metal detector machines.
Why is Janet Napolitano supposedly taking it under submission, this new proposal or supplemental clarification, whatever you want to call it, if it's already existing policy? Why would she have to make some kind of amendment or
if what
correction?
you're talking about is already in policy?
Well, Janet Napolitano, I mean, we're talking about two different things, guys, and we seem to be conflating them. Airports that have X-ray machines, the only alternative is a full-body pat-down. Now, we can debate that all day, but to airports that don't have these X-ray machines, you go through a metal detector, you don't set it off, you have baggy clothing, somebody selects you and says, you know what, because of your baggy clothing, I require you to do secondary screening. Then and only then are we commenting and saying you're entitled to patting your own baggy clothing down, which is TSA policy, not a full-body pat-down.
What was the initiative for this new release here? What was it? If it wasn't the new regulations, why did you come out with this right before Thanksgiving?
Because it really, Ahmed, I agree with you, Rebecca. It really sounds like you right now on national TV are backtracking from that release.
No, we're not backtracking. I mean, I've explained to you multiple times, and I told you that if this line is confusing and we can see that it might sound confusing, we're already working with TSA to make sure that it's not. What I'm telling you now
How
is
about the rest of the flying public? Why don't we work with the rest of the flying public and clear that up for us?
Well, again, we are. I mean, we're sending a press release that basically clarifies our position on this in concordance with TSA policy.
Great, great. We're going to have to leave it there. We're going to say thank you to Ahmed Rehab for joining us today.